What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and Tommy DeVito picked up his first win at MetLife Stadium. The New York Giants improved their record to 4-8 with the win over the New England Patriots. First thing I'm going to say, the New England Patriots are terrible. Man, they are tough to watch. That was a boring game. The Giants won an ugly one there, 10-7 win, missed field goal at the end, and the New York Giants walk away with a narrow victory over the crappy Patriots. The Giants always get the Patriots number. It feels like I'm wearing the 19-0 denied Super Bowl 42 champions, the 18-1 season shirt today. You guys know how it is, Giants versus Patriots. It's always a fun little respectable and competitive little rivalry. The Giants coming out on top, like I said, with Tommy DeVito as, of course, a standout, and also Wink Martindale's defensive unit, also the standout in this game, making the New England Patriots offense look as bad as ever, maybe even worse. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this game, talk about some of the key standouts, and talk about what it means for the Giants draft stock. Now, that's the big point of conversation here, the New York Giants winning. Does that mean that they're losing? A lot of Giants fans feel that way. A lot of other Giants fans are just happy to see a victory Sunday and wake up on a victory Monday. We'll kind of talk about how we feel about it and look ahead to the draft order as well as we recap this game. But before we dive into all that, make sure to like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode and comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And how are you feeling after seeing Tommy DeVito pick up another win?
I'm doing pretty good. Always love to win a football game, and Tommy DeVito obviously stepped up. And I think that we're gonna have a conversation at some point to talk about this offense under Tommy DeVito has looked functional. You know what I mean? This offense has looked like it's able to move the football downfield. They're able to, reduce turnovers. I mean, Tommy DeVito did fumble that one snap to Wan'Dale Robinson, whose fault that is up for debate. But at the same time, he protects the ball relatively well, doesn't throw many interceptions, doesn't really put the ball in harm's way. And I think that's a commendable trait of Tommy DeVito's. Obviously, he bleeds that confidence. He had a couple drops early in the game from his receivers. Sterling Shepard dropped a long one. Wan'Dale dropped one. Saquon dropped one. They didn't really help him out in a lot of ways. But who did help him out? Jalen Hyatt. Hyatt with over 100 yards for the first time this season. Dude was absolutely on fire. We finally saw that expanded route tree. Hyatt looked good. Those two rookies connected a couple of times. That one pass by DeVito to the right boundary was absolutely gorgeous. Right in the breadbasket, Hyatt got the feet in. Love to see that connection. We know Hyatt can be great. We just need to get him the freaking football. How about that? And the defense, wow. I mean, Bobby Okereke has a hip injury. He has a fractured rib and a dislocated finger, and he's still balled out. He almost had 2 interceptions, had 1 pick, had a couple of big plays. Xavier McKinney had an interception. Adoree Jackson played well. Banks had an interception. He played excellent. Banks were certainly closed today. But like you said, the big kind of controversy right now, the conflict is this win actually a bad thing for the Giants? And I'll say this. Do you guys remember the good feeling you had beating the Cowboys? I mean, that feeling has been fleeting for a long time. I don't actually remember the last time we beat the Cowboys and I felt good about it, or the Eagles for that matter. It's been a very long time. That feeling of beating a division rival in their home or at MetLife, that feeling of absolute joy, that feeling of, damn, like we just balled out. We had a great game where we beat a divisional rival. I miss that feeling. I don't get that feeling from wins anymore, mainly because these wins mean nothing to me. These wins don't actually help our future, more so in the fact that, we're probably not headed toward a postseason appearance. I know we're 2 games out, but we play the Eagles twice. We play the Cowboys. We already lost the Cowboys. So, we have to face off against the Rams who can score points. We could beat the Saints. Obviously they're struggling. There's some, and then the Green Bay Packers had an excellent game on Thanksgiving. So, you wonder to yourself, and a lot of fans are wondering the same thing, is winning games right now good? And there's one reason that it is good. And it's that if you're in the perspective of a coach, if you're Brian Dable, if you're Joe Shane, winning football games right now actually saves your job. Because John Mara, in your ownership, you're looking at the coaching staff and you're saying, you guys losing games consistently against teams. I mean, guys, the Patriots, Bailey Zapp. Mac Jones is going to be selling freaking insurance next year. He looks absolutely horrendous. Bailey Zapp, most of their passes were behind the line of scrimmage, reminiscent of many Giants offenses. They were atrocious, abysmal. Some of their passes, I don't even think I've seen Daniel Jones throw passes that bad. I don't even think I've seen anyone, Tyrod or Tommy, who certainly doesn't throw passes that poorly. It was ugly. They were going into triple coverage, floating them over defenders. It was just horrendous to watch. It was painful. And as a Giants fan, it says a lot when you're seeing that type of just poor performance and being like, wow, I don't even think we've seen that level of poor quarterbacking. So, for what it's worth, I always love to win. It's always a good thing for the coaches. It's obviously paramount to keeping their jobs. But how about the internal conflict? Anthony and I want to have a full discussion tomorrow about this. The reports that came out from Jay Glazer before the game regarding Brian Dable and Wink Martindale apparently are beefing pretty badly. And it stems from the Xavier McKinney situation, and there's other things that play a part. But we don't necessarily know the internal fracture of what's happening in that coaching staff right now. Is Wink Martindale going to walk? And guys, if we didn't have Wink Martindale's defense right now, this team may be kicked out of the freaking NFL. We would be something else in terms of poor. This defense has kept us alive, has kept us afloat, has kept us respectable and commendable at times this season. We're going to talk about that more tomorrow because I think it deserves its own episode, but certainly concerning to me in a season where your season is all but lost, your coaching staff is conflicted, and you're winning games that probably are going to help you drop down in the draft stock enough that you're not going to be able to get a top quarterback prospect, at least the top two. And I'm coming around big on Jaden Daniels right now. We're going to talk about him a lot during the offseason, obviously following up as the season goes on here. Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal. And if the Giants end up with him, I certainly won't be sad about it. And I know a lot of people are feeling that way right now. But Anthony, what are you thinking about this situation at hand? The fact that winning this game right now may not be good for the long-term future of this team, but in terms of the coaching staff staying, in terms of keeping them in their spot and not going through another rotation of GMs, another rotation of coaching, that it's ultimately that's not sustainable. We need to give them another chance, in my opinion. And winning games like this helps them keep their jobs. So there's a perspective there that it does support them in their future. But in terms of getting Drake May or Caleb Williams that people want, it's probably not the best thing for them unless we trade up, which I guess is possible still.
Trading up is very possible. I mean, it wouldn't take it would take a lot to do. The Giants would have to give up a lot of draft picks. But when you're trading up for what you think is a franchise quarterback, that is almost an invaluable piece. You give up everything that you can, and the quarterback fixes it because a star quarterback is worth more than any draft pick ever can be. So I think the Giants fans need to realize that trading up is definitely on the cards for the Giants. If they finish at around 5 or 6, and there's a quarterback team or there's a team up in the top 3 that doesn't need a quarterback, they might trade up and go ahead and get that guy. Another thing that Giants fans need to realize is that there's a lot of quarterbacks who are drafted and succeed outside of the top 3. I'm just going to list some names here. These are guys inside of the top 3 who were picked and playing in the NFL right now. Jared Goff, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Matt Stafford, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Baker Mayfield, Zach Wilson. Now, a lot of good names on there, but also kind of a mixed bag. Now, let's talk about some of these quarterbacks who were not picked inside the top 3. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, the final pick in the first round right there. Josh Allen, the 8th overall pick. Tua Tagovailoa, the 5th overall pick. Justin Herbert, the 6th overall pick. Dak Prescott, a 4th round pick. Kirk Cousins, a 3rd round pick. Jalen Hurts, a 2nd round pick. And the list really goes on and on. Yes, there's some names out here that aren't as great. You got Mac Jones. Of course, he wasn't a top 3 pick. Justin Fields, we'll see what happens. Jordan Love, we'll see what happens. But there are plenty of opportunities for the New York Giants to find quarterbacks that don't exist within the top 3 picks. And if you want someone in the top 3 picks, the San Francisco 49ers did it a few years ago. They traded up, they traded the farm, they landed in the top 3, they got Trey Lance. Now, had Trey Lance been the superstar that they wanted him to be, it's a great trade. He wasn't the superstar they wanted him to be. It was a terrible trade, and they're still a winning football team anyway, so take from that what you will. But I do think that there's something to be said from the perspective of New York Giants fans, where you look at it and you say, this is a quarterback-filled draft class. There's a lot of talent at the position. Yes, the top 2 guys are the top 2 guys, and you hope to get one of those guys, but if you don't, there are other talents in this draft class. Now, do I want to see the Giants draft J.J. McCarthy? Personally, I don't, but I know that there's a lot of Giants fans that do. I feel like it would be landing a Mac Jones or a Daniel Jones. Other Giants fans see it differently. He's had a lot of success against really good defenses, plays under center. I see some of the positives as well. But that's just something to keep in mind, is that it's not just Drake May and Caleb Williams in this draft class. Like Alex said, Jaden Daniels as well. So there's always opportunities to get creative in terms of attacking the quarterback position. But really right now, I do want to just talk about what the New York Giants put on the field today. I know that we're going to get into a lot of the draft conversations throughout the offseason, throughout the rest of this regular season even, because right now the Giants are slotted to pick 6th overall. They have a couple of QB needy teams in front of them with the Patriots, Washington, arguably the Bears, but we'll see. but also there's a lot of teams up there like maybe the Bears, like Arizona, that they could trade up with. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for the New York Giants to land that quarterback. I don't expect them to win too many more games this season, but this win, I thought that it was pretty cool to see Tommy DeVito go out there, get a win on his home turf. If we want to talk about the quarterback position, this is the part of it that really needs to be discussed. The New York Giants cannot go into the offseason thinking, man, if only this team was playing this good when Daniel Jones was out on the field. No, because Daniel Jones is part of the reason that the team wasn't playing this good. I personally believe that. I know a lot of Giants fans don't. A lot of Giants fans want to see this team continue to build around Daniel Jones. I personally think that all that we've been seeing the past few weeks, Tommy DeVito having great success behind a bad offensive line, lack of playmakers, it's the same situation that Daniel Jones was in. It's the exact same, and he's finding success and finding ways to win football games. He's not turning the ball over, which I think is the key difference here. I'm not saying Tommy DeVito is out there just making amazing plays. He's cost the Giants points as well from, taking unnecessary sacks and all that kind of stuff. But Tommy DeVito doesn't shoot himself in the foot. He doesn't put this ball into harm's way. He doesn't lose these games for the New York Giants the way that, unfortunately, Daniel Jones was losing them games earlier this season by fumbling the ball, throwing in interceptions, turning the ball over. So what I've seen the last few weeks is not evidence that the New York Giants have been playing better and, oh man, I wish Daniel Jones was in the lineup. This is evidence that the New York Giants do need to find a new quarterback who helps raise this play of performance level from the rest of his teammates, elevate those around him and plays well in bad situations. I'm taking these last few games, the wins, the closer games that we've had, even with Tyrod Taylor in the lineup, I'm taking it all as evidence that the New York Giants do need to find a new quarterback. So whether you think that they should tank to go ahead and get that quarterback, or whether you think that they should build around Tommy DeVito, whatever you think the solution here is, the one thing that I know from watching these last few games is that Daniel Jones does not appear to be the solution anymore. Now, I definitely did have a different opinion going into this offseason. After last season, I thought that Daniel Jones was starting to turn the corner. He brought us to a playoff game. He won us a playoff game. He looked great. Yes, it was against a lot of bad defenses, but he also had good games versus good defenses. He played a great 2022 season. I also thought that he would turn the corner and that the contract would be worth it. I was wrong, and I can admit that. Joe Shane needs to also admit that. And I think that's the main takeaway that we need to have as Giants fans here. It's not the fact that they're winning meaningless games and they need to start tanking. Guys, there's 5 weeks left in the regular season. There's a long time between now and the end of the regular season. To think that the Giants weren't going to win football games down this final stretch, that's kind of delusional. Like, this team, I know that they were playing really bad about a month ago, 2 months ago, but going into the season, we thought that they were a playoff team. So for them to win 5 games this season is not shocking. It was a regression to the mean, right? The Giants were playing really well last season. They got their way into the playoffs. They were playing really poorly this season. We thought they could be a first overall pick. What was the true middle point here was that they were going to be a middling to bad team that ends up with a fringe top 10 pick. And ultimately, I think that's the regression to the mean that we're seeing right now. And the Giants are going to land with somewhere around the 6th or 7th or maybe even 10th overall pick. And I think that's fine because a lot of quarterbacks get drafted in that range. A lot of players can be drafted in that range to change a franchise. And I do believe that the New York Giants are going to take all of these games that we've had in recent weeks, use it as evidence to say it is time to find a new quarterback in the offseason. So, Alex, when you're kind of looking at the sample size of games that we've seen from Tyrod Taylor, Tommy DeVito, the way that this team has legitimately been better without Daniel Jones on the field, again, I like Daniel Jones. I really thought he was turning the corner. I do think that this is evidence that we were wrong about that and that it is time to move on. Tommy DeVito playing so well behind, with such a bad situation around him, I think is just great evidence to say the New York Giants need to swing for the fences and find a superstar quarterback to elevate this team. How are you feeling about that notion, kind of that idea that it's time to move on from DJ?
Well, I think I'm in lockstep with you on this in that, look, what's the difference between Tommy DeVito and Daniel Jones, right? There's a $40 million difference. Is the talent difference that much? Is it $40 million worth of talent? I mean, I think most people with half a brain would say that that's obviously not, right? Daniel Jones, we've seen be a good quarterback, but the offensive line, and here's the thing. The offensive line, guys, is never going to be so freaking good that Daniel Jones is going to be able to sit back there for 30 minutes and make the throws that we know he can make. It's not realistic. He's going to have to deal with pressure. He's going to have to deal with the inefficiencies of a team at times and injuries and inconsistencies. This is just the NFL. This is life in the league. Guys, CJ Stroud, I mean, I know they lost today, but I mean, they've won 6 games, I believe. He has 6 starting offensive linemen that have been on the IL this year, right? Or the IR. They've had 6 offensive linemen lost to the IR, and he's still going out there and putting up over 250 yards passing, multiple touchdowns, some on the ground, and connecting with players. He doesn't have a wide receiver one. Tank Dell is solid, Nico Collins is solid. I would not call them top receivers in the NFL. I'd say they're good support pieces. They're no Devontae Adams. They're no Tyreek Hills. But CJ Stroud's elevating that entire team. We've rarely seen Daniel Jones do that consistently. CJ Stroud has done that every single week this season. He elevates every single player on that team every single week. Have we seen Daniel Jones do that every single week with a bad offensive line and a bad team? No. In fact, I think we've seen Saquon Barkley do that more so than Daniel Jones at times. But I will say this. I was in the same boat as you. I thought Daniel Jones turned a corner. I thought we saw his mental processing speed up. I thought we saw the offense take a big step forward. I thought we found a way to get the most out of him, play action, really getting him on the move. And the problem is a lot of his production came on the ground. That's not a problem, but more so half the battle. He had over 700 yards rushing last year. If you eliminate those rushing yards, it's tough to look at him as a pure passer and say this guy is an elite. It can be an elite quarterback. He could be great with the rushing included, but now he's coming off a torn ACL, guys. What do we expect from him on the ground? I don't necessarily trust that he can be the same running quarterback coming off an ACL tear in 2024 in a year where they can get out of his contract after next season. That's a big part of his game. We didn't see really Saquon Barkley get back to full confidence until a year after that ACL tear. So I just don't know what to expect from him. And if I don't know what to expect, and you guys don't know what to expect, and Anthony, I know you don't know what to expect, how the hell do we think Joe Shane feels about this right now? Does he expect Daniel Jones to step right back into his role and be the same quarterback we saw in 2022 that saw him taking big steps forward? And can we really expect that? I don't necessarily know. And for what it's worth, I don't think going into the 5th year or 6th year with Daniel Jones as quarterback, and we haven't seen that consistent great upside, I'm willing to take that shot on a Jaden Daniels. I'm willing to take that shot on a quarterback who really has that it factor, who has that game-breaking factor, that ability to make a play when you need it, that clutch moment, that pure winning mentality. Not to say that Daniel Jones isn't a winner, but the team around him has really hurt him at times as well, and it's just been unsustainable. And I think that unfortunately we can't continue to give Daniel Jones years for this team to get perfectly fit around him. We need a quarterback that's going to step in and help elevate a team that is going to probably have a lot of weaknesses in 2024. And I think that ultimately, having a quarterback battle up is, and look, DJ's going to be here next year. It's a $47 million cap hit. There's no way out until after next season. You draft a quarterback, guys. You let him compete outright with Daniel Jones. And at worst case scenario, that young rookie quarterback sits behind DJ for a year or a couple of games until the natural, promotion happens. And then you just kind of move on from Daniel Jones and use him as a bridge quarterback. Yeah, he's a freaking expensive bridge quarterback. But at the end of the day, that's a really decent situation to see a young quarterback learn the ropes, learn what it takes to be an NFL player, learn the routine, get into flow, and then take over naturally. You're never going to, no one expects to hit on CJ Stroud. No one thought he was going to be this good already. He's just, he's just an outlier in a lot of ways. Bryce Young, everyone thought he was going to be that guy. So it's unfortunate to say, but I think that hitting the reset button at the quarterback position gives us a lot of opportunity to, one, see if Daniel Jones has anything left. Maybe you trade him at the deadline to a team that just lost their quarterback, and Daniel Jones can step in and actually help them, make a play for the playoffs, and they can just get out of the contract right after, and they take on a little bit of dead money. There's now options when you have a rookie quarterback financially and, in terms of trade capital. So I do think it's in the best interest of the Giants. And I do think that right now, having a higher draft pick, of course, gives you an opportunity to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, whoever it might be. But there's other good quarterbacks in this draft class, as you mentioned, Anthony. And I've very much come around on Jaden Daniels. I've watched him a lot recently, and I've been following him, really close. And a lot of people have because of this Heisman level campaign he's having. And the guy's got some really great touch on his passes. He is electrifying mobility. This is someone that just wins football games. He's a straight up winner, and he beats great teams. Like a lot of people have the red flags about Caleb Williams not playing well against good defenses. Well, if you go watch Jaden Daniels, the guy kicks this absolute crap out of good defenses. So it's who's the better prospects? It's hard to say sometimes, but you never know in the NFL. Someone could just emerge and become great. But that's kind of the end all be all. And I know we've touched on a lot, and a lot of people get rubbed the wrong way when we have our counters against Daniel Jones and him being the future. But if you're sitting there right now and acting as if Daniel Jones can bounce back from an ACL tear, having all the stuff that's happened to him and everything and the neck injuries, and feels though he's still the future, kudos to you for that support. We wanted Daniel Jones to be the guy. We prayed to God he would be. And I think right now I just can't go into a 6th year thinking that suddenly things going to turn around and become perfect, because I just don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair stance to take. I think those are fair feelings to have. Listen, I share a lot of them. But what I will say, you mentioned Jaden Daniels beats up on bad defenses, good defenses, whatever. One player that I think beats up on bad defenses, good defenses, whatever, Jalen Hyatt. Let's just talk about that real quick before we wrap here. I got to mention Jalen Hyatt looked phenomenal today. Deep threat, not even just as a deep threat, though. Like, yes, he connected with Tommy DeVito. By the way, Tommy DeVito throws a really pretty deep ball. Like, honestly, he throws a great deep ball, like not just a great deep ball for an undrafted rookie, a great deep ball for a rookie quarterback. No, he throws a great deep ball, and we got to acknowledge that. Like Tommy DeVito does some things really well. He definitely has a career in this league. This is not a flash in the pan. I love the Lynn Sanity-esque moment that we're having here with Tommy DeVito, but really what this is we're watching somebody blossom into a quarterback in the NFL. Like he is literally earning himself a long-term career in this league. And I'm not saying it's as a starter. I'm not saying Tommy DeVito is the starting quarterback of the New York Giants next season. If he is, that would be interesting. But as a backup long term, Tommy DeVito is earning that role right now with what he's doing on the football field. He's showing that he does some things exceptionally well, and it's really fun to watch. But again, so is Jalen Hyatt. He's balling out. Got to give him more touches, not even just on the deep passes. He caught a couple underneath. I thought that he looked great all day today. Another rookie who stood out, I mean, damn, Deontay Banks got himself an interception, had a few pass breakups, a few tight coverage plays. Cordell Flott as well. He didn't show up in the stat sheet or make any plays like last week. He had, of course, the punch out fumble, some splash plays. Cordell Flott had a play where somebody was running an out route and he absolutely just shut it down and forced a throw out of bounds there. And it was on third down. Like those are the plays that don't show up in the stat sheet. But that was literally a turnover on downs forced by Cordell Flott. So there's a lot of really young players on this football team that are playing really well. I know that we've been talking about this team for several weeks. Us all Giants fans have been talking about this team like, man, we suck. The future is bleak. The present is bleak. But really, I don't feel that way. I think that the future is pretty bright. Like I think that there are a lot of solid young players on this team. Thibodeau was a little bit quiet today, but when he flashed, he flashed. I mean, he wasn't given too many opportunities to make plays because the Patriots were just throwing screen passes all day, so pass rushers can't make too much of an impact. But considering that the defense played this well without Dexter Lawrence in the lineup, there has to be a good portion of talent on the defensive end of the ball. And also, I think that we saw some good talent on the offensive side as well. There are some good football players on this New York Giants team. What's really important for this team right now, it does feel like a lost season, even though they are kind of close to a playoff spot. They're not going to get one. What's really important for Joe Shane and this New York Giants coaching staff is to evaluate the young talents that are on this team that are playing well so we can know who we are building around next season. I keep saying that about every episode now. But it's just important to highlight some of these young guys who really are standing out. Xavier McKinney with his first interception of the season. He's been playing some damn good football these past few weeks. Like, we got to talk about maybe the Xavier McKinney extension needs to get revisited in another episode that we have, Alex, and we kind of talk about it. I think he's making a case for it now. I do think he is. So it's interesting to see this defense really turn things around. We know McKinney kind of had the butting of heads recently in the media with Wink Martindale. Now it seems like they've been praising each other. Everybody's praising each other. The locker room's in harmony, and I think that's awesome to see. And again, Tommy DeVito's playing good football. Jalen Hyatt, Deontay Banks, Bobby Okereke. Oh my God, what a great signing that was for the New York Giants. He is a freaking monster and a great human being. Great human being that we interviewed in the offseason, and just great to see him performing so well for the Giants. It's unfortunate that this team has sustained so many injuries. On the offensive end, Darren Waller's not out there. He might be after the bye week. We'll see. So this is a team that has talent on it, though. And I think that New York Giants fans, yes, we're looking ahead to the draft because the season has been really rough and we want a new quarterback because of the way Daniel Jones was playing before his injury. But I also think it's important to sit in the moment, take a look at this team, take a look at some of these standout performers and say, damn, maybe there is a good bit of talent on this team. It's a lost season. Maybe in 2024, you do get that right quarterback in place. You get a couple more pieces in there. Maybe this New York Giants team can make a quick recovery and get back to the playoffs a lot sooner than a lot of other franchises are expected to do so. So I'm happy. The New York Giants won a football game, so I'm always happy about that. Yes, I'm a little bit weary about what this means for the future, but we'll continue to discuss those things, talk about this little beef between Dable and Wink Martindale for what it's worth. Both of them denied it in the post-game pressers today, but it's interesting times right now as a New York Giants fans. We'll continue to cover the NFL draft, the New York Giants, how they're playing, and everything else in between right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to like if you did enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.